Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, January 20th, 2017, the WNW 268 on Inauguration Day. I've been in the news business since the 1970s. I got my first full-time job while I was still a full-time student in college at a TV station. Been covering inaugurations and presidential inaugurations for a long time. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think this inauguration is like any other inauguration in U.S. history. I mean, just look at this headline. Washington, D.C. turned into virtual fortress as 250,000 protesters descend upon the city. Of course, if you flesh that out, these are paid people, paid protesters. They are being bussed into the city of Washington, D.C. There's thousands and thousands of police officers and military personnel. They've got makeshift areas where they can book and arrest and hold people. This is ugly. I mean, this is unbelievable in our culture that you have this kind of planned and paid for protest by the fascists on the left. And that's what they are. They call the people on the right, the Trump supporter, fascists, but they're the ones that are committing Nazi-like actions to discredit and disrupt and to interfere with First Amendment rights, the right to go to inauguration, the right to, to support your political candidate. And they want to disrupt that. They want to actually stop people. They actually want to stop the inauguration, which they're not going to be able to do. And here are the Democrats. The Democrats prepare for Trump with one of the earliest resistant movements ever to greet a new president. This is Washington Post, on Thursday, the day before the inauguration. And why would they be doing this? What is wrong? Change is coming, and the change isn't good for the the liberal, progressive / communist / Nazi / socialist, whatever that is. And here is Joe Biden in Davos, Switzerland, at an epic final speech. Joe Biden, the vice president, warns that the progressive democratic world order is at risk of collapse. Yes, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and you have to lie about your policies because they suck. It's like Obamacare. Everything about it was a lie, lie, lie. It's the biggest policy lie in history. Why? And now it's imploding. Why did they lie? Because it wasn't going to work. It wasn't good for most people. That's why it's imploding. Here's George Soros, who I think ought to have an arrest warrant out for him for trying to overthrow the American government or make a life miserable for Americans. I don't understand. He's acting like a criminal. It's going to fail. This is what George Soros says at Davos again. George Soros slams would-be dictator Trump. He'd be a dictator if he could. That's what he says. That's not going to happen. I mean, please. George Soros, who's been paying for protesters and paying to disrupt, American society and paying for dirty tricks and, George Soros. It's unbelievable. I mean, they ran a flawed candidate. They had to cheat in their own primary to get her in. The head of the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, had to step down in disgrace, and then was hired by the person she cheated for. Donna Brazile, who took over for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, also cheated by giving questions to Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. She couldn't beat a 73-year-old socialist without cheating. Spent $1.2 billion to lose. She had the press in her pocket. The press colluded with the Clinton camp and gave advice and gave script approval to them. They could not win. And they're wondering why they lost, because they ran a terrible candidate and they have terrible policies. That's really why they lost. And they couldn't even cheat their way into a victory. Speaking of Davos elite call for a ban on physical cash. This is a zero hedge in the U.S. This is a zero hedge title. And, that it plays in with the global elite's control, which is, that's not going according to plan. I have Steve Quayle, who wrote this book, and it came out just in December of 16. Just came out, a month ago. Empire Beneath the Ice. And he's talking about Antarctica. He wrote a very detailed book with lots of sources in here and footnotes in this book. He's going to be the early Sunday release. And, I'm bringing him on. I can't find anybody else who can explain all these people, like John Kerry, Secretary of State, on Election Day going to Antarctica. Antarctica is not on its way to anywhere. You don't just stop off in Antarctica. You have to go to New Zealand and then down to Antarctica. You have to go down to South America through the Drake Strait and go to Antarctica. Also, rumored President Obama made a secret trip to Antarctica, and plenty of other people. And what's going on in Antarctica? And I'll talk to Steve Quayle from stevequayle.com on the early Sunday release. Very interesting. You won't want to miss it. And you wonder why the Democrats are perplexed about everything. Well, here's why. Because things are going to change, right? Boom, this is a headline. Donald Trump eyes 10% spending cuts, 20% slash in federal workers. That's what's going to happen. We have a bloated federal budget. Trump's going to actually act like the CEO of America, Inc., and he's going to cut some waste and cut some people we just don't need. That's how you get your budget in line. It's one of the first ways a CEO can get their budget in line, and boom, cut labor. And that's so, and in what we have in America is we have a federal economy, we have a government economy, which should be way smaller than the private economy. You want the jobs to float over into the private economy, not tax the daylights everybody to keep maintaining this big, huge federal bloated employee base and employee budget. But he's going to actually cut some people. Here's another one. This is why the Democrats and the NWO New World Order people are freaking out. Trump to immediately sign as many as 200 executive orders. Hey, PBG, poof, be gone. President Barack Obama's legacy. And day one, it's going to start with 200. Yeah, not going to do that, not going to do that. Going to stop doing that, going to stop doing that, going to stop. Yeah, on day one, on his very first day in office. Speaking of President Obama, he has commuted or he has absolved or he has given clemency to or commuted the sentences of more people than any other president ever. Pardoned. And here's one with, Obama communicates life sentences of 4 Mexican drug cartel leaders. These were in South Texas. And they got life sentences, and okay, you served enough time. They're going back to South Texas now. They still have their felonies. Still can't own a firearm. Still can't vote. Unless you're in Virginia. Thank you, Terry McAuliffe. But that's he is commuted the sentences of or pardoned more people than any other president ever, by a long shot. And here is something in USA Today which I find was bizarre. That Bradley Manning now calls himself Chelsea. Don't cry over Russia hack if you let traitors go. He's talking about Bradley Manning, who was convicted of treason and giving classified information out where people could get killed. Bradley Manning got a 35-year prison sentence. He has 28 years to go, and President Obama commuted the sentence saying, well, it made sense, and he's really served enough time. I mean, this is a guy that committed flat-out treason, gave out hundreds of thousands of documents, and released all kinds of information about things going on in the background with our war efforts and our servicemen that could get people killed. And why in the world he wouldn't pardon Snowden? Well, I know why. Snowden embarrassed the daylights out of him. I mean, Snowden didn't cause anybody to get killed because if he would have, you would have heard about it. Edward Snowden. What he did was disclose the fact that, hey, the government is doing unconstitutional stuff, spying on everybody, including our allies, like Angela Merkel and also the president of Brazil. Very embarrassing to Barack Obama. Very embarrassing. And he was just, they were spying on all of our allies along with everybody else, along with all Americans. And bulk data collection. Remember James Clapper lying about that in Congress, committing perjury under oath in Congress? No, we're not doing that. Yeah, you are. And here we have, moving over to the media, who's also freaking out about this big change because, Trump is going directly to America, to American citizens, to his 45 million Twitter followers, and then the press has to report on that. They can't filter his word. So here we have, another phony poll, and this is the headline. I just gave you the headline from Zero Hedge, which they summed it up. New ABC WAPO, Washington Post poll shows drop in Trump's favorability courtesy of aggressive oversamples. They were oversampling Democrats. They were polling way more Democrats than independents and Republicans. And then they get this lopsided poll where it shows here, let me just show you, 57% of Americans see Donald Trump's treatment of the news media as unfair. Wow, a poll about themselves. Unbelievable, because they're trying to hold on to power and it's slipping through their fingers like grains of sand because, they're fake news. They're not fair. Here's Trump's tweet right back at him. The same people who did the phony election polls, and they were way off, as I told you all the whole time that Hillary wouldn't win, the polls were wrong, and were so wrong, are now doing approval rating polls. They are rigging just like before. And he's right. I mean, listen, the essence of news is to be fair, to be a fair arbiter of the truth, to be reasonable. Listen, Jim Acosta with the CNN thing where he calls him, "You're fake news, I'm not taking any more." He wasn't going to get into a debate with a damn reporter. And I don't blame him. I mean, Acosta came there. CNN got front row seats like at 4 o'clock in the morning. They didn't finish their own story. So we're reporting on this briefing. And what was in the briefing? Oh, yeah, everything was fake in it. Everything was unsubstantiated. Everything was, factually wrong. Like Michael Cohen, the lawyer that works at the Trump Foundation, or with the Trump businesses. He's their lawyer. And, wrong, Michael Cohen conspiring with the Russians. I should have been all hammered out before they ever got to a press conference. But Jim Acosta wanted to throw a pie in the face, and he wanted to shove it in Trump's face in the front row, and Trump shoved it back. He didn't finish his own story. I never got paid at CNN. And let's just use CNN. I never got paid at CNN to go to my boss and say, "Hey, there's this briefing, and it's full of fake information. And I want to report on it and say, hey, there's this briefing. It's full of fake information and none of it's true, but you need to know about it." I never got paid to do stories like that. And Jim Acosta should be ashamed of himself for not running all that down before he got to the press conference because I want to throw a pie in his face. That's what they wanted to do. That's not fair. Then you have Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN, warning Trump, we're seeing not good for you to have a adversarial relationship with CNN. We're seeing in Beijing and Moscow, and we're seeing all over the world. Really? The internet's not all over the world? I get people writing me from all over the world. Really? This is old-timey wackadoodle thinking. Jeff Zucker thinking that his network is fair. Jeff Zucker, really? Fair? Come on, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. And you're retread from NBC. So, not fair. And I just wanted to show you some more how this yellow journaling, real Weasley stuff, so they can say, well, we were fair, we covered such and such. Here's the 18th this week. USA Today, the nation's news, 4.3 million subscribers for now. And here it is, Trump Nation healing. In Trump Nation, healing is overrated. That's their headline. A couple days before healing is overrated. But right on the back page is what should have been the headline. Here's the headline: Trump's aim in his inauguration address, national unity. That should have been the headline. I mean, come on. Do you have to take every snipe and every shot and every single day some nasty headline? Oh, and incidentally, you could say, well, we covered that. Yeah, sure. Yeah, here's what everybody saw on the newsstand above the fold. Okay, right? Trump Nation, healing is overrated. And here is what the headline should have been: an actual fair assessment of what he was going to tell America in his inaugural speech. His inaugural address. He was going to try to go for national unity. But oh no, USA Today, they don't want national unity. They want to tell you that everybody hates Trump and he's going to be a failure and all that. Here's an AP story, Associated Press story. And let me, this is another way they headline something, and then in the story they tell you the truth. But the headline doesn't tell you the truth. Trump dossier came from competent British spy. Really? In other words, you're supposed to think, oh, this phony dossier full of factual errors and nothing is confirmed. It can't be. Oh, it came from a competent British spy. Let me read you where this quote came from. So here's where the quote came from. Here's a quote. "I know him to be a very competent professional operator who left the Secret Service and is now operating his own." He's a former MI6 agent, and now operating his own private company. Says Andrew Wood, Britain's ambassador to Russia from 1995 to 2000, told the BBC on Friday, and he says, and I quote, "I do not think he would make things up. I don't think he would necessarily always draw correct judgment, but that's not the same thing." He didn't have good judgment. So the headline, if you wanted to be a fair arbiter of the truth, if you want to capture, a piece of a quote, competent. No, British Trump dossier came from ex-spy that didn't have good judgment. That was the appraisal, but it wasn't fair, and that is a fair arbiter of the truth. They cherry-picked competent, like, this report was done by a competent person who didn't have good judgment, according to a former ambassador. Here's another one with Lynch, Loretta Lynch, the outgoing Attorney General, and she does this slam on Chicago police, of Chicago, of all places, Obama's hometown. And she's, world is watching, Loretta Lynch declares, the world is watching, with the Chicago Police Department. And, was there a mishap? Was there some bad things in Chicago? Yes. But what the Trump administration, what she wants to talk about is all these terrible things happening in our cities, like Chicago and Detroit and Philadelphia. It's the cops that are all bad. Are there bad police? Yes. The overwhelming majority are not. And the overwhelming majority try to do a good job. I mean, this isn't a big, high-paying job. Oh, and by the way, newsflash, you can get killed. And what this is a cover-up of failed policies of the Barack Obama administration. Let's just talk about Chicago. I mean, 760 murdered, 80% of which are African Americans. 5,000 or 6,000 African Americans kill each other every year. The amount of white people killing black people, minuscule compared to that number. And then if you take a look at the wounded in Chicago, 4,300 wounded. I mean, if we had 762 killed in Afghanistan and Iraq and 4,300 wounded in 2016, the mainstream press would be going crazy thinking, do we need to put our troops in harm's way? This is one city in Chicago. Where is Black Lives Matter about the carnage? Where is it? Where is Jesse Jackson? Where's Al Sharpton? Where's Obama? That's his hometown. Zip, not a word. Black Lives Matter. Here's what happened in my hometown. 9/11 mother wouldn't let people touch child after he was fatally shot. She's running around her house, the poor woman, after she was shot by who? An African American. Her son shot her 5-year-old in a dispute out in front of her house. Did you hear about that? Black Lives Matter start marching on that one about this dreadful crime where, older brother kills a 5-year-old, I don't know, by accident or by out of spite or the gun went off or whatever. But, that's the charge. And then we have this one, Black Lives Matter. Well, not to this family. Here's a police officer gunned down by an African-American suspect, killed. 38 years old. I think she had 2 or 3 kids, 4 kids, killed by an African-American. Where's Black Lives Matter? An African-American suspect killed this woman. Where are they? Oh, no. Black lives only matter if we can make hay against Whitey. Then they don't matter. And then you have, this. And folks, anybody that watches this newscast, you see me week after week after week with USA Today pointing out the Weasley, cheesy, unfair, either unfair or incorrect, ways to discredit Donald Trump and, also to make the Obama administration look better or whatever. But this, I couldn't believe when they saw the story. Here's USA Today. Can the fake news trend be ironed out? Fake news, as if they're not. And again, the fake news, the fake news is there some fake news on the internet? Sure. Is the MSM guilty of fake news? You betcha. If they're not committed to being fair and unbiased and reasonable, listen, do you think the mainstream media has been fair to Donald Trump? Do you think they've been a fair arbiter of the truth? No. No. And, this is why I brought this up a while ago about the mainstream media. And let's just read here, the propaganda. This is Oxford Dictionaries. If you just read along, information especially of a biased, misleading nature used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. Propaganda. Do you think the mainstream press has been guilty of propaganda? Yes. Therefore, they're fake news. They're fake news. They're not there to inform you. And this is why I made the call last year saying the layoffs are going to be stunning in the mainstream press. And then you had this story about the New York Times saying, oh, we actually did well and we're doing really good. And then you had another story about the 8 floors in their 40-story building. Poof, gone. Of people. They don't need 8 floors of people at the New York Times. And here we go. New York Times warns budget cuts are coming. They'll still invest $5 million to cover Donald Trump. But, hey, budget cuts are coming. Are budget cuts coming because they are getting too many clicks on their websites and getting too many new subscribers at the New York Times? I mean, this was the most contested, the most interesting election for a president ever. I mean, it's unbelievable. You couldn't have written a Hollywood script with this kind of zig and zag and outcome and intrigue. I mean, they should have been selling newspapers and getting subscriptions, and they're laying people off. As I predicted, the layoffs are going to be stunning, and this is just the beginning. Thank you so much for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments. Smart people. All the links and the comments that you guys you put up really make the site much richer. Even if I don't agree with you, as long as you're respectful, listen, it's just great. Also, thank you for your donations. That helps us out. And remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically. Oh, one last thing. And I wanted to get this in. I wanted to get this in the computation. Hold on. Let me back up. Boop, 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 boop. I told you about the commutation of the drug cartel sentence. I told you about the Chelsea Manning, Bradley Manning. His sentence got cut short. I told you about all the the people that President Obama basically let off the hook more than any other president ever pardoned. Please note, on his last day in office, he did not pardon Hillary Clinton. Let that sink in. He didn't pardon Hillary Clinton. A lot of people were thinking, oh, he's going to pardon her. Oh, he's going to pardon. I'm thinking, how does he pardon her? Doesn't he have to, enumerate what she did wrong? And if he pardons her, doesn't he say, yeah, my administration was full of fraud? Did not pardon Hillary Clinton. We've not heard the end of that chapter in this story. The Hillary Clinton private servers that she had so she could cover up the fact she was taking treasonous bribes to her global charity fraud that the Clintons are in the process now of shutting down. Are they shutting that down because, they helped too many people and cured too many AIDS and helped too many poor people around the world? Or is it because all these donations are drying up? You've not heard the end of that. And I just wanted to get that in there. So now I'll continue. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father is in charge.